in Las Vegas already. The timings are different and it looks very, very interesting. Seeing the cars on track in Las Vegas, track evolution, is a normal street racing in which they just quickly close up and open up again. And the race is on Saturday, like we know, but very early on Sunday morning, it starts around 2 a.m. So you don't want to miss it. But it's on Saturday in US, so in Nevada, Las Vegas, Nevada. So it's going to be very, very touch and go. Now, what did we learn? Now, the Ferrari have come into this race hoping for a better result, and we can see Charles Leclerc in the first part of the practice doing the talking on the track. But I think they were not allowed to go for the drivers' conference. The Ferrari drivers were not allowed to go for the drivers' conference, which to me I knew would happen. Why? Because they will be asking them questions. Some of the questions were asked outside the conference, and they were able to clarify some few things. Nobody was talking about what John Helkan. I think John Helkan himself would have learned a lot from this. Everybody should know their job. It's not the fault of the driver to be driving the car, lift and coast. I'll say that again. So you don't praise some people and dissipate some people. And also, as a leader, I think they have a lot to do in that hierarchy. And I think for them, we've seen teams growing around teams. That's how they win in F1. Ferrari is still stuck to their old ways. They are not trying to embrace the new ways. They are not trying to show themselves how they can evolve, and they're not ready to evolve. And I think that's one of the major problems of Ferrari. They need to leave that Maranello in Italy. Have a base there, not that they won't have a base, but move away from that ancient way, that ancient thing. Move around teams that are evolving. I think that would help them. But we saw Tsunoda for the first time this season in any practice outperforming Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen has said that he does not like street tracks, but that does not really matter. It's a car that is fast and made for him, so I think he could. Tsunoda really doing a good job today. All through the FP1, he was just churning good times, trying to make sure he makes the car perfect. And we saw a lot of the drivers on the exit points really exiting, because every driver was trying to maximize those slow corners, push the car into the slow corners and make sure they get time. And the Red Bull are faster on the slow corners. Now, this track was meant to be for Mercedes, though I think Mercedes will still come out in the FP2, FP3 and qualifying and do a better job, because this track has always been a track for them. So let's see what they can do. FP3, we are looking at and we are hearing there might be rain, which might impede it or not make it really work. So we can see a lot of drivers doing a lot of running simulations, a lot of things to get decent times in and see how the times they get in will help them in the main race on Sunday morning, which is Saturday in Las Vegas, Nevada. So how do I see this coming in? I see it's going to be a very interesting race. Will the Ferrari be in contention? After what I said, I think they are still not going to be in contention. It's between Mercedes and Red Bull. Ferrari coming, good luck to them, but I don't see them really being in contention. I still see the Red Bull really pushing for it. Now, FIA has seen a lot of teams using different tricks for the skid blocks. That's why they are escaping it. They bring a different titanium plate that expands and contracts. So some of these things were noticed before the race in Brazil. The unfortunate thing is FIA keeps noticing all these irregularities. They have the technology late in the season, and it would have benefited some teams, but they said a lot of teams are doing it, so we don't really know the teams that are really doing it. Nobody's coming out to tell us, oh, these teams are doing it, these teams are not doing it. So I think they need to just look for ways to make these things more easier, much more better, racing more central, so that there will be less cheating, less brouhaha, Just have 3 races after this. Though we might see Yuki Tsunoda still having a way back to the sister team, that's the Racing Bull, but I don't see it because he has less races to push himself, and I hope he gets back. Really, I think a lot of drivers have a lot to say in this race, including Max Verstappen, because he needs to churn out a lot of inner strength, mental strength in this race to see how he can get maximum points ahead of the McLaren if he really needs to be in the championship contention. If he had a lot of time, we are going into the sprint race next week in Qatar, then the final race in Abu Dhabi. If he's getting a lot of time, then going into the last 3 races of the season, I think he will still be in contention. But if he cannot get the best out of this race, then it will be very difficult for him, especially him against Oscar Piastri. Oscar Piastri has been dull in the last few races. Probably can pick himself up back in this race and in the next few races. Let's see how that pans out. But Las Vegas is going to be very interesting. Female F1 Academy 2 is going on this weekend. Up to FP2, I will give you much more analysis. Yeah. So track evolution will be so important in Las Vegas, Nevada. And why is track evolution going to be so important? As cars are going out, as they keep running the track, setting either fast laps or slow laps on the track keeps getting better. And we know that when the track keeps getting better, the drivers can set better times. So track evolution will be so important. And as we saw last year, George Russell was able to take pole position because he came out last. The track evolves, gets better. But I think for tomorrow's qualifying to be a little bit different, it's not until you get out last. These cars are close, very close, and a lot of changes are looking very imminent. Now, we saw 2 red flags in this session, the 2 for the manhole cover. We saw Charles Leclerc out after the first red flag. Now, he's having another gear problem. He's had one earlier in the season, I think about 3-4 races ago, in which they changed his transmission. Now, I think they're going to change his transmission again. That can be done before tomorrow. But what will go down as possible penalty for him, he needs to qualify higher. Now, we saw the McLarens also coming up stronger in the FP2 when they made the necessary changes to the car from FP1 to FP2. Now, Lando Norris is looking much more pacier on the soft tires. The Red Bull are not looking bad. The Mercedes are not really looking bad. Ferrari also not looking bad. Charles Leclerc, P1 in FP1, P3 in FP2, but it's going to look very close in qualifying tomorrow. Now, the race will also be very important because we're going to see drivers trying to make sure they get the absolute pace out of the car. Just few races to the end of the season and less upgrades, a lot of tuning, learning for the next year car. And also, we are going to see a lot of people trying to do a lot to make themselves faster. Now, Las Vegas will be a good spot because the temperature will be different tomorrow. They're looking at rain, in which I'm not sure the rain will come down tomorrow. And if it comes down, it will come down very early. But before the race, the track should be dry, which means the track will be green again. The drivers will need to do well to lay rubber down and make the track conducive for them to race. If the car is conducive for them to race, in which they will need to start setting the pace very well tomorrow when they get back on track because of the green track. I think qualifying will be more important. We might go into the less 1 minute 33, going to maybe 32, 31 probably, but I think 32 might be the best we're going to. Now, who said the pole position? I think it's still between the Mercedes and the McLaren. I'm not counting Ferrari in. Even if they set the pole position, they might not win the race because how would the race when they will still be lifting and coasting? The LICO for Ferrari is till the end of the season. I hope they're able to correct it. So if they can't correct it, they will still lift and coast, and that might tumble their season also at the end of the day because they've lost a lot of races due to lift and coast. Silverstone, Baku, a lot of races they've even tumbled out of points because of lift and coast. Remember Lewis Hamilton in Singapore. So they have a lot of struggles of their own. So they will need to do well to not push to the limit, but also get some decent time out of this present car because they have little time to race it. Antonelli has done quite some great jobs, and I think now in points is about 26 points behind Lewis Hamilton, which is very close. We have 3 races to go. Will he be able to snatch the 6th position away from Lewis Hamilton? Well, up until the end of the season, we can't know. Now, up until FP3 qualifying, I give more updates and I keep you abreast on what is going on in Las Vegas, but it's not much going on presently. The race pace looks very competitive, especially for everybody. The tires are graining very hard, especially on McLaren. Now, how will they manage their tires for the race? For qualifying, I think the more you drive it, the more the tire improves. Remember, it's cold, it's about 11 degrees, which means you can use the tire over and over before it starts falling off. So the tire gets better before it falls off. So you can run the same tire 2 or 3 times and you get better and quality laps out of it before it falls off. So the drivers will try a lot of things just to get some quality time out of it. But will the tires last in the race? The setup will also determine it. That a lot of people have gone to Monza spec DRS wings, but let's see what happens. Catch you guys tomorrow after the FP3 and qualifying. I love you guys. Bye. Cheers.